Hello everyone, it's your boy NoobWaffle here. I'm gonna be showing you my settings today and how I juggle swapouts and how to easily juggle swapouts. Let's begin. Let's go through the settings now. Movement is just normal, W, S, A, D, Q, E. Centering a player is C, but it's actually bound to my mouse. I'll go into more detail later. And then reset camera angle, I use it a lot. Auto fire toggle, left alt, so I can press it with my thumb. Attack is left click, but I never actually use it. I almost always just auto fire. Ability, I use spacebar because I'm used to flash, and that's how it was in spacebar. For control summons, I'll bind it to one of my middle mouse buttons when I'm playing summoner, but when I'm not playing summoner, I just leave it none because I use that same key for one of the swapouts. Interact by, just C, doesn't matter, whatever, who cares. Nexus key, most people use R, but I like F because it's what I'm used to. It's closer to the index finger, but also just what I've been using for like the last 9 years. Switch tabs to your backpack, HP bars, whatever, these don't matter. Then quick slots. You're probably like, wait, what the fuck, NoobWaffle? Mouse 4, V, and apostrophe? I'll explain. But yeah, these are actually bound to a bunch of mouse keys, except V. I personally like using my thumb to press a bunch of swapouts, like V, B, and space, because the thumb is a really good finger, and normally you aren't really using it. It's pretty flexible, and it moves a lot. That's why God gave us thumbs. These don't matter, and then, oh, these don't matter, and then yeah. Inventory 1, 2, 3, 4 are just the numbers, but I don't actually use them really, except when drinking HPs out of the inventory. 5, 6, 7, 8, you see really weird stuff here. 6, 7, 8 are bound to my mouse, and 5 is also bound to my mouse, which I bind to X. Chat, just normal keys for chat, not very interesting. Gameplay, I use the classic interface, that's all you got. Rotation, yes. Minimap rotation, hell no. That gives me nausea. This, yeah. Opacity, I like to see players, but I don't like to see them much, so 10%. And then all these on, so no one, not even my guildies, are 100%, because it distracts me. I use normal rotation speed, because that's what I'm used to. I use this, because that's what I'm used to, and I like these all on. It's nicer. Star requirement, I have it off because I actually like seeing blue stars in the realm sometimes. It's quite nice. Filter swearing. Fuck swearing. I hate swearing. Just kidding. Yeah, I love swearing. Off. Hide chat window. I like to talk. Nope. And then yeah. Chat on. And then I'm not an elitist, so no, I can take trade requests from everyone and whispers from everyone. Yay. So you guys can talk to me in game. Video settings, I like this cursor because it's easy to see. Full screen. I have a 1440p monitor, but I purposely put it to 1080p because at 1440p it glitches and it's like way too zoomed in. The farther zoom setting is this, which is too zoomed in for my liking. So instead, I put it to 1080p where I can zoom in to here if you want. But it's really ugly, so I use this zoom setting. 0% camera angle, and all of these things enabled, they're really cool. This thing's too cluttery, off, on, and then I like to just hide all the unnecessary stuff, so I can, there's less clutter on my screen, and I can dodge better, yeah. And then I hide the ally projectiles and stuff, because I like to hide the clutter and make my game run better. Then sound-wise, as you guys have commented a million times, I have weapon sounds on and quite loud. Pew 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 pew. Yeah, I'm just used to it. Okay, now for the part you're waiting for, my swapout system. As I've mentioned, I use the G502 mouse, which has a shit ton of buttons. So, with this mouse, you can bind like all the buttons to different things. So what I do is, for the middle mouse button, there's actually 3 actions you can put on it. You can click the button, which I bind my snake-eyed ring to, but you can also move the button to the left or right, and I bind those to X and C. So in game, what that looks like is, when I press the middle mouse button, swap to my snake-eyed ring. When I press the right mouse button, swaps to my EP. And when I press the middle mouse button to the left, it swaps my spell. This mouse also has side buttons, like DPI shift, which it doesn't matter, and then these 2 side buttons. I use this button to switch my slot 6, and then I use this button to drink HP pots, or whatever else is in my first quick slot. So yeah, this mouse really helps me manage my swap outs. So, the way quick swaps work is, I like to keep the same item type in the same slot for any given class. And these slots are an ability swap, so between Orc spell and Parasite spell for an 03 wizard set, an alternate weapon, which it can either be a shorter range or DPS, or some funky weapon you switch, like sword classes have a ton of swap outs. Then a speedy item, which is either Snake-Eyed Ring or an ability, which I always carry, and then a DPS weapon, which every class has. So these are the main 4 swap outs in my inventory. And then I just like to put health potions for 1 to 4 if you're doing Shatters or 03. Now, for the quick slots, I usually have my first quick slot on my side mouse button, and it's usually health, so I can spam HP pots really fast when I get hit, or even spam them preemptively. My second quick slot, I bind to my mouse button, and it's always either DPS items, like tinctures, or just mana, so I can spam more spells. And then the third quick slot, I don't use much, because the way I usually do it is I just drag it quickly to be my first quick slot, like this, if I want to. But anyways, yeah, I think it's bound to the tilde symbol or whatever. So here's the buttons I use for swap outs, which is scroll button to the left, side mouse button, middle mouse button, and right mouse button. Which kind of makes sense, because you see here, it goes from left to right, and then on the mouse, the side button is on the left side of the mouse, the middle button's in the middle of the mouse, and then the right mouse button's on the right side of the mouse. So it's just a habit I've gotten into, and it works for me. So for making your own swap out usage, assuming you don't have a fancy mouse, here's the 3 key tips. The thumb is really good for swap outs, because the thumb is basically unused during gameplay, especially if you use right click as your ability, which is Exalt's default. I have V, B, C, and space all bound to some swap out keys. If you have mouse buttons, or even if you don't, you still have middle click and right click, use them. And if you don't have mouse buttons, I recommend you use the pinky. For me, my pinky goes mostly unused. All it does is press shift for push to talk on Discord, and control for like teleporting to people, but that's it. And then tips 1 and 2 are here because you want to keep your main fingers on WASD, QE, R, and F, which are your movement, rotation, and nexus keys. Because you always want the ability to be able to move freely and aim at any time. You don't want swap outs to distract from that, which is why I recommend this swap out system. All of these ideas are taken straight from Fortnite. Yes, I played Fortnite, but I don't play anymore because Realm already takes all my time, and sometimes I do need to touch grass. Okay, let's show this system for every single class except Kensei now. Okay, let's go through the swap out system for all 18 classes except Kensei, because that class has been broken forever and I don't know how to play it. So, Wizard, the main ability swap out I use for 03 is Orc Spell when I'm sitting on him. I have Superior for more DPS, and then I have the classic Snake Ring and the EP. If you're doing other non-O3 content, I would highly recommend Genesis here, and Fungal Spell as well. For Necro, my main swapouts are Mental Mori and Curse Skull for the Skull, and then the same swapouts as Wizard. And then Mystic has really fun swapouts. So my main setup is Conflict. Here's the reskin Conflict here. It's kind of ugly, but I like it. Conflict plus Arcana, great combo with the tier 7 orb for Curse. Another great and a Superior in EP. A great swap out you might want to consider is Orb of Aether if you're doing Discord raids that need a slow. But I don't carry it myself because I don't do things that require slow. Let's go to wand classes. For Summoner, I have two wand swap outs. I use Bulwark Wand to pre-EP certain phases when bosses are invulnerable, and I use Earthen Wand to sit on bosses like an EP during phases where I can tank EP. It's not as OP as you think. Lumi does 3/4 of its damage, and you can stack it. So there's only phases like Panic or Cosmos that you can just full tank, or phases where it's worth it. And then I have a Spider Mace, which is just used to slow react for Discord raids and to prevent Luke third counters. Not too interesting. And then Peacekeeper is a great swap out as well, but my Summoner right now just does O3s. For Priest, there's a lot of interesting swap outs. I use 4 tomes. No, I don't use a tiered tome, because honestly, Fury is mostly better for healing. You don't get the healing status effect, but if you have any Paladin around, you don't need it. It's just about as MP efficient, and it purifies you. So good for best survivability tome. I main Scripture for the DPS Priest build, and I have Speedy Tome to run out of bad situations. I also carry Curse Tome because it's fun, but Priest has so many swap out options, so feel free to explore. Sorcerer, also, I run Devastation Scepter as my main scepter, with tier 7 for survivability, which I usually use post Heavens No 3, and Fall Me to slow. Let's go to melees now. For Warrior, it has a shit ton of swap outs. I like to main the Shatter's Helmet because it does damage, and I like to swap it with Tiered and Jug. When there's no Mystic in a group, or if I'm speedrunning, I like to carry a Nest Helm. And the 3 weapons I use are Divinity for general use and straight shooting, Colo Sword for when I want range and good DPS, and then Chipper for when I want to sit in the boss. I don't carry a tiered sword because a tiered sword is a lot better than Divinity for the middle range targets, but in almost all cases, I can either stand close enough to sit in the boss with Chipper around 2 tiles, or I want to stand 4.5 away with Colo, and Divinity is usually for clearing. Paladin, similar swap outs. My Paladin is in down bad mode still, but I usually carry an Oreo, a Chipper, and I also carry a Curse Seal, the Insignia, Abyssal Insignia, and I carry a Seal of the Battle God. Although right now I'm down bad, so I'm not carrying those. Knight is really fun with swap outs. Same swords as Paladin and Warrior, but I have 2 shields. Buckler is for O3 only, and the Escutcheon is for just everything else. Escutcheon is fucking OP. It just blasts like coochies everywhere. And I carry 2 rings. Whenever I want to use my ability more, I switch to Gemstone. And whenever I'm doing content where I do the most damage with my sword, or I want more survivability, I use Dama Ring. You might think it's silly to carry 2 legendary rings, but I'm a pretty sweaty player. And I don't swap the ring that often, so with all these 5 swap out classes, I only have 4 active swap outs, because swap delay makes it hard to use anymore. Heading on to Ninja. Ninja has a ton of swap outs. I main the set currently shown, and then I have Valor for high defense single targets, like O3 and Heavens when paired with Kunai. I have Turncoat for rushing, Bazistar for healing for solo play, and then T7 for speedy. Samurai, I have Void Blade and Snake, obviously, like all katanas. And then I have Ronin's Waki, the blue Waki for slowing, and then tier 7 for when I want to expose. But if there's another samurai, I'll main the sidearm. And then Kensei, well, fuck Kensei, guys. Am I right? Let's talk about bow classes now. Bard's a fun one. So Bard, the main set I wear is this. Vesture is technically better on Bard because it gives you more speed, and it's the same amount of attack with Mandolin, but if you're wearing Concertina, it's better. So I have 3 different loots. I main Mandolin for the DPS, but then if I can't sit in the boss and we already have a Paladin, I'll usually switch to Concertina for even more DPS. And then, if there's no warrior, I'll switch between Mandolin and the Agents of Orc seal, right there, the black thing. So I can double buff the group. I can be Paladin and warrior. Then for bows, Warmonger's the best, but Pred bow, use it when you can sit on boss. And then Virginia, for 03 in Heavens, Virginia bow is actually the best bow, because Warmonger doesn't do well against high defense. Huntress is pretty dog shit. This is the best set. Same Swapouts. That's a reskin of the Warmonger, reskin of the Virginia bow, the guns. It shoots actual bullets. A slow trap, and then Pred bow to sit in 03. Archer, similar things. I don't have another Pred bow, so I have tiered. If I had Void Quiver, I would main it, but I don't have one. And then, yeah, ignore the Harp in T7. And then finally, Dagger classes. Trickster is a fun one. There's so many more Swapouts you could carry, like all these orbs. But for me, I just want a T0 orb for rushing, T7 for decoys, Coin for DPS and decoys, Davies orb for DPS, because you can spam it and do like 10 explosions, a Cutter, and then a Gemstone. If you have an Avarice, it might be worth using, but I don't have another Avarice, so yeah. Rogue, same deal. I main Monocle, and then for 03, if you're really sweaty, you can glitch Monocle with Bloody Cloak. But it's really, like, you don't need to do that. With 2 Dagger Swapouts, but I mostly use Avarice for when it's boss is stationary, Cutter for sitting on boss, and then tiered. And then Assassin, my Assassin is down bad, so I don't really have any Swapouts. But if you cared about Assassin, you could definitely add in a tiered poison for more survivability, or a polarity poison, because it's the best poison and it slows. But yeah, that's my setup for every class. Hopefully, I'm not by no means am I an expert with most classes. I only know how to play like 3 or 4 classes properly, like 4 classes. So my setups might not be optimal. There probably are better setups, but I think these are reasonably good, and this is how I arrange my swap outs in inventory. Hope you learned a bit. See you next week. Bye.